absolute authority. Brad the Owl's got a theory. It's the boot technology. Too many spikes and cleats on the boots, which means way too much grip, causing issues with knees, ankles, calves and hammies. Also, players are now wearing those grip socks too. Love your work, boys. They are wearing the grip socks. They do wear them. They cut their... Yeah. It's an elaborate process, but if you're seeing odd looks... they are wearing the grip socks, so we'll throw that into the mix. This is a weird one from 789. The bender has gone. That's why there's more Hemis done. What?
The bender?
The bender
is gone. What, talking about getting on a drink?
Mm. Hunter Cynic says, gentlemen, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction to hamstring injuries. That's good text. Good areas.
This from Big Port EJ says, Origin bolter Connor Watson on the bench can cover 6'9" and 13. Is in good form. He's playing very good.
Very good
Connor
form.
Watson.
Very good form. Yeah, I had Pappenhausen down for my 14 this year, but of course he's gone. He's one of the many. All right, the NRL Physio, you know him, a good mate of this program, but no one really compiles the data like Brian Sini, that's his real name, but well, NRL Physio. He looks at season on season and clubs, and he's kept a record of everything, and I mean pec injuries, calf injuries, hamstrings, knee recos, all of that. Like I can throw at him. I'll throw a question. How many times has Tom Trbojevic done his left hamstring? How many has done his right hamstring? NRL Physio, Brian Sini, ahead of a big day at work up there, up in Queensland, is on the line. Brian, welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
You are pumping out some great content on social media at the moment. If people follow you on Twitter at NRL Physio, I'll ask you that question. Tom Trbojevic, hamstring breakdown, left and right. What have we got?
3 and 3, Vossi. First three were on his left, and the second 3 on his right.
So did he go to Bill Knowles with a left hamstring problem, and then the right's gone, or how?
No.
Is that how it's?
So right and right, effectively.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So he went with the right, and the right's gone again, unfortunately.
Ooh.
So
yes, yeah.
Cash back, money back from Bill.
Yeah, no, I don't think it works that way. So let's just isolate on hamstring injuries first of all. Now you put out some data over the weekend where we're tracking in terms of the number of hamstring injuries. What have you got for us?
Yeah. So hamstring injuries are going bonkers, as I'm sure everybody's seeing so far. So year on year from 2019, the average per season is 24 hamstrings over the entirety of a season. Now, we are at the end of round 10, so what would you say, maybe a third or just over a third of the way through the season, and we're already at 20. So we're only 4 off the average with a good, 17 regular seasons rounds and then a final series to go. So, yeah, hamstring injuries have just been going mental. The 2 high-profile ones in Cleary and Turbo over the weekend. So, yeah, I think we're going to well and truly leave that average number in our dust for 2024.
The Nathan Cleary one was a bit different to what we saw. Yeah, Tom was flying across the try line. Nathan wasn't accelerating. He was barely. He was in a jog situation, wasn't he, Brian? It was just different for me to see a hamstring go like that when he wasn't running at speed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is what you've described there is the difficulty behind hamstring issues is that, especially when it comes to re-injury, the re-injury rate's up to 30%. I mean, that's in the NRL, it's up to 30%. In some professional sporting leagues, even soccer, it can be up to 60%. And these are professional, leagues with the best medical staff, the best treatment, all that kind of stuff. And you're talking re-injury rates of 30 to 60%. So it's definitely an injury that the sports medicine field probably hasn't got a full handle on at this point in time because, we're seeing hamstrings go in situations. I mean, Tommy Turbo's done his hamstring 3 times stepping, which isn't something that you'd usually associate with a hamstring injury. So, yeah, the forces these guys put through their hamstrings is just significant, and then I think it's like sometimes just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, I had a text. I was driving home after the game on Friday night, and I'd watched the Penrith Dogs game and then called the Brisbane Eels game. And I was driving home, and I got a text off Tim Sheens, who was my coach back in the mid-'80s. And Tim texted me, and he said, do you remember when you had hamstring problems and as I'm reading the text, I'm thinking, wow, Tim's memory is amazing. Because I do, like, of course, I remember having
This is
hamstring
84,
problems.
85, is it?
That's right.
We're going back 40.
Yeah,
okay.
going back 40 years. And Tim said, remember we went to the AIS because I had a period where I was redoing the hamstring, same as Nathan. And he said the importance, remember that they said the importance of calf strength. And I don't know if anyone, and what that's, whether it's relevant 40 years on, but it was something that that he said, I remember them saying, you need to strengthen your calves. And it was all about alignment back in those days, hips, and making sure your hips were, aligned so there wasn't any pressure or uneven pressure on either leg and the hamstrings. But does that still rate true, Brian, about calf strength?
Yeah, I think, and once again, what you're talking about there, hip alignment and calf strength, it definitely still aligns. It's probably not the major factor, but it's something that needs to be considered, and it just shows the complexity of hamstring rehab and injuries, because it's not just as simple as, okay, go to the gym and strengthen your hamstrings, and you'll be right. We've got to consider the calf. We've got to consider the balance between the hamstring strength and the quad strength. We don't want the quads to get too strong compared to the hamstrings and vice versa. We need the hips to be stable. We need the core to be going well. It's just, it is. And look, a lot of injuries are like that, but certainly the hamstring for footy players, there's just so many components. And I mean, Tom Trbojevic has gone to the effort of changing his running gait. I've had a lot of people message me throughout this season being like, oh, Tom looks like he's limited. This is even before this week. He looks like he's got a niggle. And literally, I think all it was he changed his running gait, and he just looks different to how he used to. And people are kind of going, oh, he looks limited. I'm like, he just looks different because he's running differently to try and reduce his hamstring strain risk.
Okay, what's your theory then?
Yes, we need some theories. We need help from an expert. So, is there something? Is it something to do with the grounds? Is it is it the stoppages, the number of captain challenges, bunker? You go from 100 running 100 miles an hour to zero in these stoppages. What's the theory?
Yeah, so I think and I was probably on this show a couple of times back in the 2020, 2021, or even. And it was very easy to see, because 2020 and 2021 were cooked, right? There was the injury rate was insane in those years. And it was COVID, it was all the shutdowns, it was the rule changes. We brought in those rule changes, which just significantly sped up the game. And guys were just going down left, right and centre. So it was very easy to see what had caused that. Looking at this year, when you look at the game, and especially comparing 2023 to 2024, there hasn't been many changes. There's a dropout change, which I'm not going to associate that with increase in hamstring injury risk. So, look, the only things I can point to, number one, is the wet field. So a lot of people kind of point to the wet fields, and even on Thursday night the field was getting chopped up at Suncorp, and people are going, oh my God, Magic Round's going to be there. People are doing their knees and their ankles, but wet grounds that break up and are soft actually increase muscle strain risk, because the way I explain it to people is it's like if you wanted to sprint on sand, your muscles have to work harder because that ground is softer to propel you across that surface. So that we've had lots of wet fields to start the season, so that could definitely be a contributing factor. The other thing the NRL has come out with, and I don't have the exact numbers on me, but they did say that there's been an increase of ball in play time during, to start the season, and the game's been a little bit quicker. So with the ball in play more, you're going to get more opportunities for hamstring injuries, more opportunities for fatigue. So that could be a little contributing factor as well. But as much as it's probably the boring thing to say, it's probably more than likely an outlier at this point in time. You would think that this is going to settle down at this stage, but I mean, I'll wait for that to come, hopefully.
Well, we've been saying all along, maybe it's not an increase. You've given hamstring stats a stat, certainly, but just in general, the injury toll, it's because it's so many star players. It is the star attraction. That's why it's so much more prominent. But I just want to throw one last one at you. Now, Brandy's the elite athlete. I go by the policy of no pain, no pain. Is there a chance we train them too hard? Like, I watch warm-ups these days. I think it's ridiculous. The warm-up before the games go Some teams go 30, 40 minutes. Like they're out in the field. Is there just a chance? I'm just throwing that at you, Brian, that we are training the players too hard?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll just quickly say about is there less injuries or more injuries? Every year apart from 2020 and 2021, the injuries range between 12 to 13 injuries per week. This year, it's 13.3 injuries per week. So there hasn't been a massive increase in injuries. It's literally just been star names. That's what it's been. And then to counter your argument about training too hard, absolutely you can train too hard. There is a point where it's like, okay, you're training too hard, overtraining, fatigue. But I point to 2020 and 2021 as a reason why training hard is really important, because the injury rates were huge in 2020 and 2021 when guys were limited in what they could do with training. They weren't preparing their bodies well enough, especially in 2020 when they had that shutdown period and we came back and the injuries were going mental because guys hadn't trained well enough. So there definitely is a balance. I'm not saying that, everybody needs to be smashed to the ends of the earth, but you cannot underprepare. And what you need to know is that these guys are going out there to put their bodies through insane amounts of force. If they don't prepare their bodies for that force, they're actually under increased risk of injury. So my argument always is, if you see a hamstring go in the warm-up or something like that, and people go, oh my God, they're, warming up for too long and too hard. If they did it in the warm-up, they were going to blow the hell out of it in the first 10 minutes of the game if they didn't prepare themselves for that.
Well, it's always great to talk, Brian. Really do
Excellent.
appreciate the expertise. It's fantastic stuff, and I know you're busy, so thanks for giving us some time this morning.
No worries, guys. Good to be on.
There you go. And you can follow him at NRL Physio, but he gave you the number, 13.3 injuries on average a week, and normally it's between 12 and 13. So, no, we're not at any outlandish level.
It's just the
prominent
names.
players. Yeah, the names. Good stuff. Have you say? We want to hear your theories as well on the Edgewater Homes text line, 0457736736.